Charles Lucky Luciano, a name synonymous with organized crime, rose from the gritty streets of New York City to become one of the most powerful and influential gangsters in America. His story is one of ambition, cunning, and ruthless determination. Born in Sicily in 1897, Luciano immigrated to the United States as a child, carrying with him a shrewdness and ruthlessness that would define his life. The harsh realities of immigrant life in New York's Little Italy shaped his early years. He quickly ascended the ranks of the city's burgeoning underworld, graduating from petty theft to bootlegging during the Prohibition era. This period was a breeding ground for organized crime, and Luciano seized every opportunity. Luciano's ambition knew no bounds. He possessed a keen intellect and a natural talent for organization, recognizing the potential for immense profit in uniting the disparate gangs that plagued the city. His vision was to create a national crime syndicate. Through cunning alliances and brutal force, he orchestrated the downfall of his rivals, consolidating power and establishing himself as the undisputed kingpin of New York's underworld. His strategic mind and ruthless tactics were unmatched. Under Luciano's iron-fisted rule, the five families of New York City, Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese, were born. This structure brought a new level of organization and efficiency to the criminal underworld. This intricate web of organized crime extended its tentacles into every facet of city life, from gambling dens and brothels to labor unions and political circles. Luciano's influence was pervasive and far-reaching. Luciano's empire was built on a foundation of fear and intimidation, his enforcers carrying out his will with ruthless efficiency. The mere mention of his name struck fear into the hearts of many. However, Luciano's reign atop the criminal underworld would be short-lived. In 1936, he was convicted on charges of compulsory prostitution and sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison. The trial was a sensational affair, capturing the nation's attention. It seemed that the notorious gangster's luck had finally run out. Little did anyone know that fate had a strange and unexpected turn in store for Lucky Luciano, one that would intertwine his destiny with the fate of a nation on the brink of war. His story was far from over. As the 1930s drew to a close, the shadow of war loomed large over Europe. Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime, driven by its insatiable thirst for power and fueled by a toxic ideology of hate, had plunged the continent into chaos. The United States, initially hesitant to become embroiled in another costly conflict, watched with growing apprehension as the flames of war spread across the Atlantic. Then, on December 7, 1941, the unthinkable happened. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor shattered the illusion of American isolationism, thrusting the nation headlong into the global conflict. Overnight, the United States was transformed from a reluctant observer into a major player in a fight for global freedom. The declaration of war against the Axis powers unleashed a wave of patriotism across the country, but it also exposed vulnerabilities that America's enemies were quick to exploit. The vast coastline, particularly the bustling ports that served as lifelines for vital supplies and troops, became targets for sabotage and espionage. The German Navy, under the command of the cunning Admiral Karl Dönitz, unleashed its U-boat fleet in a deadly campaign against Allied shipping. The Atlantic Ocean became a battleground, with merchant vessels carrying vital supplies falling prey to torpedo attacks. The situation was dire, and America found itself in desperate need of an unconventional solution. As German U-boats wreaked havoc on American shipping lanes, sinking precious cargo and vital supplies, and demoralizing the nation, the U.S. Navy found itself facing a formidable enemy on a familiar front, the New York waterfront. The bustling harbor, once a symbol of American strength and commerce, now stood as a potential weak point. The vast network of docks and piers, crucial for the war effort, were vulnerable to sabotage, espionage, and other covert operations. Whispers of Axis sympathizers operating within the city's underbelly reached the ears of naval intelligence, raising alarms about potential threats lurking in the shadows. Traditional law enforcement seemed ill-equipped to combat this shadowy threat. The police, bound by rules and regulations, struggled to infiltrate the clandestine world of espionage and sabotage. The intricate workings of the docks, the flow of information, the unspoken codes of loyalty, these were territories best navigated by those who operated outside the boundaries of the law. The dock workers, with their own set of rules and allegiances, held the keys to this hidden world. This realization led Lieutenant Commander Charles Haffenden, a shrewd intelligence officer, down a path that many considered unthinkable, seeking the assistance of the very criminals they sought to apprehend. It was a bold move, driven by desperation and the pressing need to secure the waterfront. The name that rose to the forefront of this audacious plan was none other than Charles "Lucky" Luciano, a notorious mobster with a vast criminal empire. Imprisoned within the imposing walls of Dannemora, a maximum security penitentiary in upstate New York, Luciano still held considerable sway over the city's underworld. His influence extended far beyond the prison walls. His network of informants, enforcers, and loyal lieutenants remained active, their ears attuned to the whispers of the streets. They were the eyes and ears that Haffenden needed to secure the docks. Haffenden understood that Luciano, despite his incarceration, held the key to securing the waterfront. The mobsters' cooperation could turn the tide in favor of the Allies. It was a risky gamble, a pact with the devil that promised to tip the scales of the war effort, but one that could also tarnish the very ideals America fought to defend. The stakes were high and the outcome uncertain. The stage was set for a clandestine operation, one that would forever blur the lines between law enforcement and organized crime. This was a time when the stakes were incredibly high and the boundaries of morality were pushed to their limits. Dubbed Operation Underworld, this audacious plan hinged on the cooperation of the imprisoned mob boss, Charles "Lucky" Luciano. His influence and connections were seen as invaluable assets in a time of war. To facilitate communication with the incarcerated kingpin, the Navy enlisted the help of Frank Sox Lanza, a prominent figure in the Fulton fish market and a trusted associate of Luciano. Lanza's role was crucial in bridging the gap between the Navy and the underworld. Lanza, driven by a deep sense of patriotism and a desire to protect his city, agreed to act as the intermediary between the Navy and the incarcerated mob boss. His motivations were a blend of loyalty to his country and his personal ties to Luciano. Messages were passed through coded language, hidden in seemingly innocuous conversations during carefully orchestrated visits to Dannemora. These covert communications were essential in maintaining the secrecy of the operation. Luciano, sensing an opportunity to improve his situation, proved surprisingly receptive to the Navy's proposition. He saw this as a chance to leverage his power even from behind bars. He recognized that a German victory would be detrimental to his interests, potentially disrupting the lucrative criminal enterprises he had so painstakingly built. The stakes were high, and Luciano was a master at playing the long game. From his prison cell, Luciano issued orders, his influence radiating outwards through his network of loyal lieutenants. His reach extended far beyond the prison walls. The docks, once rife with the threat of sabotage, came under the watchful eyes of Luciano's men. Their vigilance ensured the safety and security of these critical points. Potential infiltrators and informants were identified and dealt with swiftly and silently. The efficiency of Luciano's network was unmatched. Labor unrest, which could cripple the flow of supplies, was quelled with a mixture of intimidation and negotiation. The balance of power was delicately maintained. The waterfront, once a vulnerable point in America's defenses, was now fortified by an unlikely alliance between the US Navy and the MAFIA. This collaboration, though controversial, proved to be a turning point in securing the nation's shores. The Sicilian Gambit, a term that evokes both intrigue and strategy, is a cornerstone in the world of chess. Originating in the late 16th century, this opening move has challenged and inspired countless players. The Sicilian defense, as it's formally known, begins with the pawn moving to c5. This seemingly simple move sets the stage for a complex and dynamic game. Masters like Bobby Fischer and Garry Kasparov have famously wielded the Sicilian Gambit, showcasing its potential for both aggressive and defensive play. It's a testament to the depth and beauty of chess, where a single move can change the entire course of the game. The journey to freedom was fraught with unimaginable hardships. Every step forward came at a steep cost. Many paid the ultimate price, while others carried the scars of their struggle for the rest of their lives. Freedom, it seemed, was not just a destination, but a relentless pursuit demanding resilience and sacrifice. After the war, life was anything but simple. Communities had to rebuild, often from the ground up. Families were reunited, but the wounds of conflict ran deep. The landscape of society was forever altered, and the path to healing was long and arduous. Yet, amid the rubble and ruin, there was hope, a glimmer of a better future. Navigating the moral maze of post-war realities was no easy task. Questions of justice and retribution loomed large. How should society deal with those who had committed atrocities? What was the right balance between punishment and forgiveness? These were not just legal quandaries, but deeply ethical dilemmas that tested the very fabric of humanity. The legacy of the war remains shrouded in controversy. Historians and scholars continue to debate its causes and consequences. Monuments and memorials stand as reminders of the past, but they also spark discussions about how history should be remembered and interpreted. The echoes of that turbulent time still resonate today, challenging us to reflect on the lessons learned and the path forward.